So when I was about 10, we'd recently moved into a new home in a sparsely populated rural area. We set up motion sensing lights and cameras with door alarms at every entry point. So there were a lot of stray dogs around my area, and I took to feeding them 2 to 3 times a day. My parents didn't like dogs, but let me play with them anyway. I ended up forming a close bond with this tall big white dog who I called Ghost. He followed me on my walk to school. So one day at around 7 to 8 p.m., I was home alone since 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. I had a bag of dog biscuits and a cell phone in my hand when I walked out to put out dinner in the bowl outside my house for the stray puppies in the nearby field. I noticed a car parked exactly outside my house, a few feet down from my compound wall. Once I emptied the biscuits, I turned around to find the car pulled up next to me and the driver asking me if my parents were home. He was their friend and wanted to talk to them. I innocently replied, saying that they weren't and they'd be home soon, and asked for his name. He got out of the car and walked towards me, talking all the while. I felt nervous and walked into the main gate. This man wedged his shoe between the metal gate and said, "You're home alone, aren't you?" with a creepy smile. I was frozen with fear and made a mad dash into the main door, slamming it shut behind me. He stood outside in my yard, looking straight into my eyes with that smile. I panicked and started running around and shutting all the doors in a frenzy. I didn't have a phone and the landline hadn't been set up yet, as it was a newly constructed house, so stupid 10-year-old me thought my parents would be home soon anyway. Now, the cell phone I mentioned earlier didn't have a SIM card. I'd just been given a hand-me-down phone to play games on. I saw him get into his car and go away in a few minutes, so I relaxed and sat in my hall playing Minecraft on my PC. There was this huge glass window, a French window I guess they call it, behind where I was sitting. After another half an hour, I had that weird feeling, like someone was in the house with me. I turned around to see Creepy Man standing outside the French window with a long stick and pole, looking dead straight into my eyes. I let out a scream and pressed the alarm button in the hall. The alarms went off outside the house, and it seemed to trigger the weirdo at my window, and he started attempting to break the window with his stick. I was crying in fear and ran and hid under my dining room table. This creep had jumped the compound wall and would have broken the glass windows in less than 5 minutes to gain entry to the house. I shut my eyes and ears and hoped my parents would be home soon. Stupid, childish me. I heard a growling noise and I looked to the window to find that stray dog, Ghost, with his jaws around this guy's leg and dragging him off balance. He began beating the dog with the stick that he'd been carrying, terrifying me further. Hearing the commotion, the neighbors, who probably called the cops, arrived and managed to restrain this weirdo. I was barely coherent at this time and refused to communicate with them, hiding under the apparent safety of my dining room table. My parents arrived at around 9 p.m. accompanied by the police, who arrived almost an hour late. They took him away, and we still don't know who or why he attempted his antics that night. I was never left alone at home after this incident, and my parents became dog lovers overnight. We even adopted Ghost, and he lived a good long life at our farmhouse at a different location, but to this day I still love dogs and strays around my neighborhood, and I do my best to take care of them. I know California gives off the whole sunset and palm trees vibe, but I've never experienced the type of stuff I have since moving here 3 years ago. While it's beautiful and I hope to get a house and be here for life, I've never been forced to take my rose-colored glasses off so quickly. This is the second run-in I've had with a creepy man that had me realizing that in an instant, everything could change forever. This actually happened to me a few hours ago and I'm still shaken up about it. Hopefully by sharing it, it will help me feel more at ease. I've recently started taking aerial silks classes and I absolutely love it. This is my first time going on a Saturday. The area is a bit rural, especially with so many of the local businesses closed during quarantine, but it didn't strike me as dangerous by any means. As I'm leaving my second class ever at this location, I notice a guy walking past. He's wearing all black, but nothing about him just screams danger. I'm talking to my husband on the phone, trying to decide if I wanted to go jog on the beach or if I just wanted to join him at home since he's off early for the first Saturday in months. We wrapped up the conversation and I decided to just go to the grocery store and then go home since my muscles are beginning to ache as well. Thankfully, I'm an avid listener to Let's Read, and one of the main habits I picked up from others' experiences is to lock your car door as soon as you get in. I forgot to mention that I did that as soon as I saw the guy in black walk by, but I waited for him to pass so he didn't get offended. Going forward, I don't care. I'll lock my door immediately no matter who's nearby. So I'm looking up recipes on my phone, trying to compare what I have at home versus what I need to pick up. My endorphins are going after an awesome workout. It's a sunny day, my man's home early. I just feel good and in the moment. Until suddenly I get this feeling to look up. As I look up at my driver's side mirror, I see a black shirt and jacket move from lying flat against my car to standing straight. I automatically know who that is and I start my car yelling, "Let me get on because I'll run this idiot over if I have to." As I'm saying this, he's just standing at my window slowly lifting his finger. It seems like he was trying to say something along the lines of, "Can I just talk to you for a minute?" But in reality, it looked like he was trying to phone home like E.T. As I was pulling out, I immediately called my husband, and as I'm trying to process what happened, I get this strong feeling in my gut that he was pulling on my car handle, but I had it locked, and that's what gathered my attention and made me look up. I consider myself to be a nice person and will try to give the benefit of the doubt to most people, but there's no denying his malicious intent. From walking past the first time, to seeing I'm still there, to being pressed against my car, to the weird, what I took as him being nervous he got caught, finger pointing, to the fact that as I was pulling off, he didn't look back at me or anything. He looked over into the building my class was in, then walked back behind the building as though it never happened. I know this is not as big as other experiences on this thread, but this still has me shaken up hours later, and I hate it because I genuinely enjoy this class, but I don't want to catch old boy again, especially since every other class is at night. Only Saturdays is midday. I'm trying not to think about what creepy people like him have in mind, or what their next steps are, but I can't help but wonder, and it terrifies me every time that one day if I get caught slipping, that could be the end of my story. I will say once I got home, I gave my husband the biggest and longest hug and prayed to God, thanking for him to allow me to just take this experience as a lesson learned, as well as expressing gratitude for being able to return home at night. Please, always lock your car doors as soon as you get in your car, and don't just linger around in your car, especially if you're in an unknown area. I've gotten a bit better about doing this, but let my guard down since it was midday and the door to my aerial silks class was literally 300 feet away. So, I'm a Pokemon Go player. I was a mild fan of the franchise as a kid, and now, in my mid-20s, I find that it allows me to get out of the house more often and do something that doesn't involve, well, my house. If you've played the game, you know that there are all these places called gymnasiums, where you can place one of your Pokemons to earn a max of 50 in-game coins per 24 hours. These coins can buy important in-game items, as well as cosmetic items, and, as you may have guessed, it's quite the popular feature in the game. However, since I live in a huge European city, there are many, many players to compete with in order to secure a spot at these gyms. The reason I'm telling you all of this is to let you know why in the world would I brave the cold winter of my metropolitan city at 3 a.m. You see, it's not just that I'm stupid, it's also because I know most folk are asleep, which in turn allows me to quickly defeat all the Pokemon in a gym and place my own. I have been doing this for a few months and have been quite successful. So tonight, the routine was the same. Got dressed, got my coat, my scarf, and my black leather gloves. I went out and made my way to the first of 3 gyms in my area that I usually conquer in the game. It's actually quite fascinating to observe the people that wander the city at these hours. Well, tonight I was going to meet a special guy. I arrive at my first gym, which is in a smallish street that curves to the right for quite a stretch. I empty it and place my own Pokemon inside. Afterwards, I linger around the area, taking off a glove to scratch my hand, but overall just managing the game and looking things up. Some cars go by and that's when I see him. This guy, clearly over 180 centimeters, making his way down the street. Now these are just my country standards, but everything about him screamed thug, ready to knife you. Sporting a black cap at night, concealing his face with a shadow. Padded black jacket with dirty blue jeans and ripped-off Timberland boots. My immediate reaction was to keep it cool and neutral and just calmly place my cell phone back in my pocket. As he went past me, he gave me this "what the F are you looking at" look, and I couldn't help but give back a small sideways glance as I put my glove back on my hand. I started walking towards the next gym, which happened to be in the same direction he was walking towards, and he, to my surprise, started speeding up. Then he pulled out his cell phone and tried to phone someone. This immediately reminded me of my girlfriend, as this is a common tactic she uses when she feels she's being followed by strangers. Whoever he tried to phone, however, did not pick up. He looks back at me, keeps walking, increasingly faster. He switches sides and starts walking in the middle of the road, effectively distancing himself further and allowing the parked cars to get between me and him, and then, abruptly, he stops. He turns around and asks, "Hey, friend, you know I can find transportation at this hour." I'm kinda weirded out and freaking out at the same time, so without even looking at him, I just said, "This hour? Only Uber." He starts walking, only when I walk past him. Then it hit me. From my perspective, he was a thug-looking dude that could have very well tried to rob me and potentially harm me. But from his perspective, I'm a 171 centimeter dude in his mid-20s that for some reason decided to pocket his phone on the moment he went past me, then gave him a sideways "what the F are you looking at" glance as I put on a black leather glove and started following him, with not a single person awake around, looking like some sort of hitman or serial killer. As anxious as I was, he must have been terrified enough to try to phone someone, or pretend to, and then initiate dialogue with a total stranger at 3 a.m., just to be sure that I wasn't some psycho about to knife him. We walked together in the same direction for almost 10 minutes after that, without looking or talking to one another. Just two awkward guys who did not want to meet one another ever again.